Late last night, the Dodgers struck again. This time they got Yamamoto. So now they've got Ohtani. They got Yamamoto. They got Glasnow. They even threw in Jason Hayward for good measure, right? The former Cub. What does it mean to the pitching market, though, to take Yamamoto off? The Yankees thought they were going to get him, and honestly, I did too. So we're going to see how that relates to the Cubs. We'll talk about baseball's new rules, all that coming up here on the Cubs Baseball Channel. Hope you guys are having a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. Let's get this thing started. What do you say, everybody? And welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. I'm Mick Gillispie on the socials at Broadcaster Mick. And it is great to talk to you. And again, I hope everyone's having a wonderful holiday season. All right, let me get this thing started by saying the Dodgers are winning the offseason. I mean, it's costing them dearly, though. They've spent over $1 billion right now. And that's for four guys, right? Over $1 billion, right? So they got Ohtani, and now they got Yamamoto. You're talking about the two highest free agents, most coveted guys in the open market. Yamamoto just got this deal that is going to approach $400 million when you talk about the posting fee that the Dodgers have to pay, and it's a 12-year contract. And he's never thrown one pitch in a Major League Baseball game. You look at his size, and you wonder, is he going to hold up for 12 years? I don't know that it was a great investment, but we'll find out. Look, the Dodgers made that investment. They felt good about it. They have him and Ohtani. Ohtani, of course, not going to pitch this year. Next year, though, would be able to do that if he comes back strong and healthy after his Tommy John surgery. They also got Glasnow in the trade and sign, and then for good measure, they gave Jason Hayward a deal, so they've got him on the kind of contract that you feel good about paying Jason Hayward for, not a long-term huge deal. And he honestly had a really good season last year in L.A. So that has changed things as far as the market, because I thought the Yankees were going to get Yamamoto. I just knew that he was going to end up in New York, and he would be absolutely beloved by the Yankees, and that they'd pay the money, and that he'd, kind of be in the Big Apple doing his thing, right? Instead, he's out on the West Coast. So you got to wonder now, where do the Yankees go from here? Do they bring back their old friend Jordan Montgomery? He was with the Yankees, then he wasn't with the Yankees. They traded him, and then he went out and helped Texas win the World Series, and he pitched the best that we ever saw him pitch. I mean, he was so good for the Rangers, and down the stretch, every time he was on the mound, you just felt like he was in control, right? So he's a free agent. Will the Yankees bring him back? There's a possibility that could happen. Or is it Shota Imanaga, the guy that we've talked about from Japan that the Cubs are interested in? And they've been in the Imanaga free agent talks or rumors since the beginning. And Imanaga, 30 years old, left-handed pitcher. And we saw him in the World Baseball Classic. He did really well. You're not going to have to pay him, you wouldn't think, almost $400 million. So he's a much more affordable starting pitching option coming over from Japan. So those are two possibilities for the Yankees. And then, the other two, which I don't know that the Yankees would really fit this, because I don't know that the Yankees have anything left to trade. I mean, they just made that trade for Juan Soto, but could they possibly be in the mix for Dylan Cease, or the White Sox could get for 2 years left on his contract? Or, would Corbin Burnes and Milwaukee end up, flipping some kind of a trade. But these are guys that you wonder if the Cubs are thinking about as well. And we'll talk about that probably tomorrow, what it would look like for the Cubs to make a trade with two of their three most bitter rivals, right? You can't dismiss the Cardinals because they're number one. But then I'd say the White Sox 2 and the Brewers 3. Some of you guys may reverse that just because the Brewers are in the Cubs division. But after taking Craig Counsell, I wonder how willing Milwaukee would be to swing a trade with the Cubs. So that's where the market is right now. And I've said this before. I feel like the Cubs' number one need is starting pitching. And that's partly because Marcus Stroman, opted out of his contract. But I think a lot of people around the Cubs were really glad that happened, because I feel like him and the fit with the organization in some people's minds wasn't there. So, we'll see what happens. But they've definitely got some money to spend. And I'm thinking that the Cubs could end up with one or two of those guys that I just mentioned there. We put it out here first for you guys. And from the looks of the video, you guys really didn't even care. But I came back from winter meetings and I did a video on these proposed rule changes. And Major League Baseball passed some of those rule changes. One of them is that they widened the baseline to first. And that's probably something that they needed to do for a long time, because, you never really see that called until there's like a situation where it's like, a throw to first and the first baseman misses it, or hits the runner, and then they're like in the baseline. But then when you look at the video, where else are you going to run? So they widen the baselines, and I think that's a good move. You're just going to, as a fielder, you're just going to have to take a step towards the mound or take a step towards the dugout in foul territory to make that play now, it looks like. But we'll see how that ends up working as far as game action goes. They also, again, tweaking the pitch clock, and they're working on cutting that down. They also cut down the amount of mound visits, which I think is a good thing too. Hey, let's get this thing going. We don't have to have 1 million mound visits. The other rule, and I'm going to talk about this next week with Tim Wilkin on the MLB Baseball Scout podcast, but it's if you go out and start warming up in an inning, you gotta pitch. You can't just go out there and start throwing and then not face a batter, So I guess it happened some last year, and it's probably one of those things that it happens and you're not paying a lot of attention, when it does happen. But it also slows the game down, because now you're warming a guy up and then it doesn't pitch, So I think a lot of the rules right now are to either speed the game up or to try to make it a little bit easier to get hits. And that's something that they really didn't address with any of these. But I talked about it on that video, and I'm telling you right now, do not be surprised if they don't experiment with making the baseball a little bit bigger. I could see them, and this wasn't something that I heard this, but they've talked about it in the past, moving the mound back, maybe flattening the mound a little bit. But the amount of strikeouts is one of the reasons that baseball is struggling. You just want to see more action, and they've got to figure out a way to get the ball put in play more. So that's something that they'll keep on working on. So anyway, that's where we are right now. In the comments section, love reading the comments, guys. I'm still working through them. Been busy the last couple of days, but I appreciate all of you guys. And it's a slow time right now. And it's frustrating for Cubs fans because, everyone's kind of waiting for something to happen, something positive to happen, a signing or whatever. But patience, and I mentioned this in yesterday's video, patience is a virtue. That the market for Bellinger is shrinking. Not to say that the Blue Jays won't come in and overwhelm him, but I think that it would really have to be an overwhelming offer if it was me to make me want to go out to Toronto for the next, I don't know how many years, 7 years or whatever his deal would be worth. I think that playing at Wrigley would be just a much better option. So if you're the Cubs, you've got to figure out how serious they are, how much money they want to spend, and then, and kind of figure out where that works with what you're doing as well. You just don't want to overpay, but at the same time, you do take a risk because, someone could swoop in. Although we know how Scott Boras works. I don't think that the Cubs are ever not going to have an option to answer, because if there's ever been a better auctioneer style agent, it's got to be him, right? Like, just who cares about anything other than whoever waves their hand with the number on it, right? For the amount of money. So, again, we'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm planning on doing shows all the way through Christmas. So, hopefully we'll have something to talk about. Maybe our best Cubs Christmas present on Monday. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. A couple things I do want to tell you before I jump off here. First off, our channel is proudly presented by Modern Lending. Our friend Chad Anderson is the owner of the company, did it himself, Jerry Maguire style. He was working for the same company that the Marlins Stadium's named after. And he walked out and said, I think I can do it better myself. He's helped over 10,000 families get into homes, including mine here, right? He's an investment consultant and an Airbnb expert. Find out more information or contact him on the socials at This Chad Is Real. And the time of year is now, man. Get to the Smokies Team store and take advantage of some great deals and also some really cool merchandise. And if you're into autographed memorabilia, jerseys, game-worn jerseys, bats, balls, all that stuff, they have it at the Smokies Team store. That's smokiesbaseball.com/team store. Go.